All right, we're just kind of a little follow-up on from the Livewell Thursday night last week, whatever day it was. Just because I noticed when I went back and looked at it, the camera didn't pick up a lot of these baits real well. You couldn't tell much about them. There was a lot of glare and stuff, and it wasn't real close. So we're just going to go over some of them where you can get a real good close look at them. And I've got so much stuff scattered out here. This is probably going to turn into a nightmare, but we're going to try it anyway. Let's start, okay, with these big jerk baits. We talked about the long A-bomber and the red fin that the young guy used on Lanier to catch some big fish in a tournament the other day. Well, that's a good look at the long A-bomber. I've changed the hook out on it. Put a heavy split ring on the front of it. But pretty good size lure. Alright, now this one here, it's a red fin. About the same size. I've done the same thing with a big red hook. This is just a big old super sized Rapala minnow. Again, red hook on the front, good split ring on the front of it. It's kind of like it's a big jerk bait's what it is. Jerk bait, swim bait, whatever you want to use it for, it'll work. This is like a giant Rapala husky jerk. Big old thing. All right, let's move over here. They talked about some pose. That is a pose RC1. That's an RC3. RC stands for Rick Clun. He used these to win the classic. I can't remember when or where. I want to say in Arkansas River, but I wouldn't swear to it. And these are a couple of pose, just plain deep diving crankbaits. They're all made out of cedar. They got a little weight to them. Not much, but they're lighter than you would think. All right, let's step over here. Here is an old one. This is a Heddon Lucky 13. Heddon is the oldest bait manufacturer. Started in like 1898. This is a Lucky 13. Just a big chugger popper type thing. Been around for a long, long time. This is a hula popper, Arbogast. It's supposed to have a little plastic tail on it, but it wore off. So that's the end of the hula popper. I used I showed it was an Ozark Mountain wood chopper. A little prop bait with some crazy funky propellers on it. Well, this is an Ozark Mountain wood walker. Made out of wood. It's like a big giant walking bait, like a Zara spook. Got the old funky hook hangers on it. And here we have a lot of devil's horses. There's a couple of devil's horses. There's one. There's one. This is a down deep Smithwick Rogue. And if you note, you see those two weights? It came like that from the factory. You know, now they, use things like tape that you can put on the bottom of them to get the little bit deeper depth out of your jerk baits. I take lead core wire and wrap around the hook shanks. That's what I do. That little thing there is called a Smithwick horsefly. Just a little tiny prop bait. That is a Smithwick bucking ball. I had that. That was on the show the other night. That's a bucking ball junior. That is a regular size bucking ball. Okay, let's go to the Rebel family. Been around since back in the 70s. Top one is a Rebel Deep Maxi R. Good deep diving crankbait. That is a Rebel, just plain Maxi R. Basically a 45-year-old square bill. This is a Rebel Deep Mini R. This is a regular Rebel Mini R. Basically another big square bill. Here we have a Rebel Super R, and below it the Rebel Humpy. They're a little bit more squat. They got a little bit more exaggerated wobble to them. Great dingy water crankbait in hot water or cold. I caught fish on the Super R just 2 weeks ago. Thought I had it out here, but it was a parrot color. Don't know where it disappeared to. Oh, wait a minute. There it is right there. A parrot color. Got a little touch of orange, some green and bone, and a little chartreuse belly. Lord, that's a great plug. And this is the Rebel Supernatural Bass. I talked about it. I caught two big ones. I caught some big fish on Altoona on that thing. Had a 9.5, and a 7 the same day. This crazy looking thing is called a Rebel Black Star. I call it Darth Vader's stepchild. Never caught any fish on it, but I intend to start throwing it, and just so I can say I caught a fish on it. I hate to have lures that I've never caught a fish on. Okay, here we have the top one is a Man's 30 plus. Big deep diver, been around since back in the 70s. All these lures kind of started in the 70s because that's really when bass fishing was kind of in its infancy, the late 60s and early 70s. And that's when all these lure makers started going crazy, making all manner of lures. But that's the top one's a 30 plus, that's a 20 plus. There's a smaller one that's a 15 plus. Great little lure. All right, and here we have a Man's 1 minus. There, right there, is a Man's mid 1 minus. And there, well, I thought I had it out here. Cotton picker. Don't know where it went, but there's a smaller one, just called a baby 1 minus. Don't know where that sucker disappeared to. I got so much stuff laying around here, it could be under my nose and I don't know it. And this little crazy looking thing is a Man's Thin Man. Really crazy looking little plug. But I kind of like flat crankbaits, flat-sided crankbaits. This is, like I said, my favorite crankbait in the entire world right now. It has been for a long time. They quit making this particular one right here. Why, I don't know. But it's a Bomber Silver Flash Deep Flat A. Awesome crankbait. You can't tell it, but that's a red, used to be a red treble hook. I put red trebles on the front, and I put oval split rings on them. God, they're time savers. Let's see. We also had the Bagley Smoo on there the other night. Well, this is the Smoo family. That's Daddy, and that's Mama, and that's Junior. Insane, crazy action. I'm converting this big Smoo into a cold weather bait for big fish. Hadn't worked out yet, but I really didn't throw it all that much this spring. Kong was doing such a unbelievable job, I just couldn't put Kong down. Between Kong and the big monster shad, yeah, it was a sight. And okay, we've got some Bagleys. The big one on the bottom is Bagley's DB3. The next one up is a DB2. The next one up is the next one up is a DB3. The one on the bottom is a Magnum. That's a DB3. The chartreuse one and black one is a DB2. And the one on top is a B flat, a little flat-sided balsa crankbait. Pretty good little lure. There's another Bagley's BB. That one is a Norman DD22. That's just pretty much a staple in any serious crankbaiter's box. Been around a long time. Caught a zillion fish. That's the next step down from the DD22. That there is a Bagley's small fry. They kind of went photo finish type thing there for a while. This crazy thing is made by, I think it's made by Normans. It used to have a skirt on it, but that blade right there turns, and it's supposed to kind of be weedless to keep the weeds out of it. It's fairly weedless. I actually caught some fish on that crazy thing, but it's just, I don't fish at much place where there's a lot of grass anymore like that. Used to fish in small ponds, had a lot of grass in them, and it was really great. This is a Rapala Down Deep 20. Been around a long time. It's like I said the other night, ultra deep diving crankbaits are nothing new. This is a 15, one size down from that one. This used to be one of my favorite crankbaits, a Rapala Fat Wrap. I used to catch fish on this thing over at Wise. There's one size up that's a little bit bigger. This is a FR5. There's an FR7 that's just a little bit bigger. This is your old Rapala minnow. Been around for, gee whiz, longer than I have. It used to be, when it first came out, it was in such high demand that you just couldn't get them. And sometimes marinas would get their hands on them, and they would rent them out to fishermen for the day. And I know there were a lot of fishermen that would probably just say they lost it and just pay for it just so they could have one. Can't say that I blame them, but Lord, those things, it's just a floating jerkbait. But there's no telling how many thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of fish have been caught on that thing. There was a guy here in town that used to go to West Point about every spring and catch a 10-pounder on it. Here, an old creek chub wigglefish. This is not an original. This is like a remint, a redo they did. You can see it got a little metal tail on it. That's like a redo of it. So it's not original. It's just a reissue that I bought one of them just so I could have it. This snag-proof frog. It was mentioned on the show the other night. One of the first frogs come out. I used to catch a lot of fish on this thing. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at. It will catch a fish. The Dance's eel that was mentioned that I could never catch a fish on. This thing, this inline buzzer, called a Floyd's buzzer. I've had this thing since back in the 80s, and I've caught some fish on it. You can't wind it very slow. I mean, you gotta pull it pretty fast, but I have caught fish on that thing. This is one of the first bombers ever made. Like I said on that thing the other night, Bomber Bait Company started back in the 40s, and they took their name from World War II. And if you look, this thing is shaped like a bomb, you know. But you pull it backwards like that. It's an oldie. Still got the instruction book in the box. I don't know what it's worth, but it's worth something. Snaggle Sally. Danny latched onto this that night. An interesting story about this Snaggle Sally. It's just an inline spinner with weed guards on it. But I think it was, I forget what year it was, but Ross Barnett, Bobby Murray, won a Bassmasters Classic, he took a spoon like this, a Strike King spoon, and then he took the front part from the spinner off of the Snagless Sally and put it on that thing and made him a lure, and it won him the classic. So I thought that was pretty cool. This thing here, an old Hawaiian Wiggler, Arbogast, another inline buzzer, one of the first. Golly, this thing had to come out back in the 50s or 60s. It's a crazy looking thing. Kind of reminds you of a squid for some reason, but a little inline buzzer, weedless, pretty cool. Oh yeah, here we go. Jitterbug, musky jitterbug. I've remodeled this one. I've taken the hook hangers out, super glued the holes, put split rings on them, put big red hooks on both of them. I took the lip off, super glued it, because I found out this glue will turn loose after many years. And this big old thing, believe it or not, it only weighs an ounce. It's hard to believe, but it only weighs an ounce. I've also made little modifications to the lip. I've bent them in a little bit more to cup some water. You can't fish these things too fast or they won't do right. Take some patience to fish them. All right, we'll step over to the soft plastic world for a minute. These little things, I call them, these were the rage back in the 80s. Boy, I mean West Point, good Lord. Throw them on a Carolina rig, they're called do-nothing worms. We call them hooky worms. You got different colors of them, but man, those things were the rage in the 80s down on West Point. People loved them. Caught a lot of, I didn't use them very much, but there was lots and lots and lots of fish caught on them things down at West Point. Here we have an original Czar spook. Lure's been around over 80 years. The hooks aren't bad, but I hate the hook hangers. I've taken some of mine, and if I want to save the hook, I take the hook hangers out, put a split ring on them, super glue the holes when I put the screws back in, put a split ring on them, and just put a bigger treble hook on them. If you don't care about the hook, you can just go ahead and cut the hook off, and you can put a split ring on the hanger while it's still on the lure. And then put whatever hook you want to on there. But not the best hooks in the world, which is one of the big complaints about them. But a spook will catch fish just as good today as it would 80 years ago. This little thing is an Excalibur Spitting Image, a little walking topwater bait. I caught a 25-pound striper on this thing up at Carter's one day. This, let me find another one first. This one we talked about on the show the other night. This is called a Jelly Waggler. That big sickle tail with the holes in it. Awesome, awesome flipping bait. Made by Mans. I don't think they've made these in, God, who knows how many years, but I've got a few of them. I also like this. Another sickle tail worm, hadn't got holes in the tail. They make this in a 7.5 inch and they make it in a 5 inch. It's called a ditto worm. One of the best flipping baits I've ever used in my life. With that laminated finish like that and that big sickle tail, when it falls, that tail just goes crazy. Lord, I've caught a lot of fish on that thing. All right, let's step back into the hard bait world. This is one of the first lipless crankbaits ever made. It's called a Bayou Boogie. Also, it's got like a one knocker type thing. Ouch. God, that plug's been around a long time. I know it's been around 40 years. All right, this crazy contraption is like a buzz bait, but right here you can hook a rattle trap on it and throw it. They got a short arm version and a long arm version. All right, I think we just about got this thing wrapped up. Here's another lure that was on the show. This is what I caught my first 2 big bass ever on. It's called a Shannon twin spin. This lure was out and about before 1965 because that's when I caught my first 2 big bass on it. Nothing fancy, but it caught a fish all them years ago, and it'll catch one now. What else we got? Oh, here's an old lure. Sudeth Little Earl. Those I think pretty sure back in the 80s. And some old headers came off. Amber flip tail worms. We used to use those on carters. they caught some fish. Actually, these are little lizards, but there were some worms too that were amber. Boy, we caught fish on them things back in the day. What else have we got? Oh, this, a Bill Plummer frog. I caught fish on this thing. I've had this frog for 45 years. I caught fish on this thing 45 years ago. Still got it. I think I just about gone down the list of every. Oh, the Vibrabat. I know you couldn't get a good look at it because we didn't take it out of the package, but we're going to take it out of the package. This is a Vibrabat. Got 3 holes where you can hook it, and it's got fluttering action just like the thing says. I remember throwing this thing when I was, let's see, 6, 12, 13 years old when I lived in Fort Worth. We went out to Eagle Mountain Lake. Friends' dad took us out there, and we just throwing stuff off the bank. But that is a Vibrabat. So that lure, I was using it in the 60s. So it is old. Kind of like me. Let's see, what else have we got? Oh, this Model A bomber. This lure, that lure there, that supernatural bass, and this flat A bomber. Those 3 lures have all taken fish over 9 pounds and have caught a lot. This lure has worked on Allatoona. I've caught fish over 7 pounds on it. I've caught fish over 9 pounds on it at Wise. I caught a 913 on it. Caught a 9.5 on it. I caught a 9.5 on that one at Allatoona, and I caught a 9.2 on that one. More than one, numerous 8-pounders. Those are my top 3 crankbaits as far as big fish producers. I don't think there's anything else out here. Oh, one more thing. I had this on the show the other night, but you couldn't really get a good look at it. There was just too much glare. But this is my Hester Monster Shad. It's caught 4 fish over 7 pounds this year already. It's made in Poland. It's not expensive. It's about $25. This is my crude hand paint job. Worked great. As you can see, I have broken the lip off and had to replace it. Had to get some replacement lips. All that white stuff there is JB weld. That lip is kind of fragile. If you hit something with it hard and jerk, it's gonna break. So don't be yanking on rocks, brush piles. Make sure it's a fish. They will follow this thing all the way back to the boat and short line you, just like they will Kong. So But you know, the only thing is it's heavy. It weighs for like almost 5 ounces, so it weighs over a quarter of a pound. You know, I hadn't caught anything under 5 pounds on it, so you're not gonna get a lot of bites. But it's a good one, and like I say, not all that expensive. Kong, even though you can't put your hands on one for probably less than 50 bucks right now, 50 bucks compared to what some of these cotton picking things cost, is not bad. So I think I've hit everything out here. Yeah, I don't see anything else. Like I say, the little hooky worms, the sickle tail, the jelly waggler, the little bagleys, the old original spook, the minus family, man's minus family, the deep 30, deep 20, the smooth family, the rebel R family, super, mini, maxi, humpy, deep, we are. There's a teeny R, didn't bring yet. Anyway, I think that's it. So I'll go edit this down and post it. So see you later.